All right, friends, we got another video of Donald Trump once again. Anyway, I'm gonna keep pumping some of these videos your way. Why? Because that's kind of part of my way of pushing back. Okay. This one here is one-on-one with Donald Trump on Sean Hannity. This right here is amazing. It's one thing you hear what other people are saying about Trump, but it's another thing to hear and listen to Trump. You know, the left has been saying Trump is going to run this retaliation campaign and so on. It's pretty amazing what you're going to hear him say here. But again, I want you to look at the face of a man who is being persecuted for loving his country, and he's trying so much to do as much as possible in his old age and sacrificing so much for the purpose of saving this Constitution. I don't think we appreciate Donald Trump enough. There's a lot of people who think Trump is the worst thing that ever happened, but I'll tell you what, man, this man is a force for good. It took me a while to wake up to this, but when I finally did, I was able to see it. Once you get past the character flaws and you go past, you know, the verbiage and mean tweets and so on, and you just look at the heart for what it actually is, you will see this is a guy who's really trying to fight for the United States of America, the American people in such a way, and is getting a lot of backlash and retaliation for it. And I've come to sympathize with the man. Doesn't mean I agree with everything. You don't have to agree with everything to love a person. But I tell you what, I've said it before. We need to give him his flower now. Like we need to really appreciate this guy. Do it while you can, because a time is coming when Trump shall be no more. Now, we don't know who else is going to take the place of Donald Trump, but I can tell you this level of persecution that Trump is facing right now, I cannot think of any other person on the face of the earth who's willing to go through this. Doesn't necessarily mean God doesn't have somebody else up his sleeves. I really believe the Lord is in charge and he has the final say. But I'll tell you what, Trump is one of a kind. This much I know. So let's take a listen to this.
We just have breaking news, as I mentioned in my open tonight, and I want to get your reaction to the fact that the appeals court has now stopped your Georgia case, election case, while appeal on Willis's disqualification is pending. This is on the heels of Florida Judge Eileen Cannon looking into whether or not the prosecutor, Jack Smith, the special prosecutor, was pointed in an inappropriate way, which would render the case and the indictments out completely. That is going to take place in fairly short order. A lot can change in a couple of days with only 152 days out of an election.
And what we call him deranged Jack Smith, because you look at his career, he's been overturned by the Supreme Court unanimously, so many other things. He goes too far.
Let me ask you this. You had said something during the trial in New York. Mother Teresa couldn't beat these charges was one thing that you said, and you turned out to be right. And secondly, you were asked about the possibility that Judge Merchan might send you to jail. You said something that really kind of got my attention. What did you say? That it didn't faze you in the sense that if that's what it takes, you don't have to be doing this. You could be playing golf every day and you probably wouldn't be charged with anything.
Well, I think I say it about almost all of these cases that are brought against me. They are doing it for the purposes of hurting a political opponent of Biden and trying to get him to win, and he's the worst president in the history of our country. But in the case that you're talking about, I said very strongly that I'm very proud to fight for our Constitution, and if that's what it takes. Everybody said, this is such a minor thing. You don't go to jail for this, all of them. But you don't understand what we're dealing against, Sean. We're dealing against a system that is so corrupt. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. I did nothing wrong in any of these things. I did nothing wrong. We did nothing wrong at all. And when you look at the analysts, whether it's Greg Jarrett or Andy McCarthy or Jonathan Turley or your friend, the great one, Mark Levin, Dershowitz, all of them, they said there's no case here. Judge Janine was so incredible 2 weeks ago. She was unbelievable. Angry. She was angry. And you know why they're angry? Because they love our country and they see what's happening. It's totally unconstitutional what they've done. And if you look at the statements made by the people I just mentioned, and I'm not friends with any, I mean, I think they respect what I've done. They might respect me. They might not respect me. But they said there's no case. It shouldn't have been brought. And the way the judge charged the jury, told the jury, gave jury instructions, nobody's ever heard anything like that.
It was basically,
Crazy.
when you break it down, a records-keeping issue on a misdemeanor whose statute of limitations had run out, that they upcharged into a felony on a federal election, and that raises another issue of appeal. What will be your
By the way, when you say records keeping, you know what the record keeping was? They charged an election, if you look, a lawyer's fee, a legal fee, and you call it a legal expense. It's known. You call a legal fee a legal expense. The bookkeeper, who I never spoke to, correctly wrote a legal expense for a lawyer that was paid.
We have a similar case. Hillary Clinton funneled money to a law firm, and that law firm hired an op research firm, and that op research firm hired a guy by Christopher Steele. That became the basis of what I described as the dirty Russian misinformation dossier. That became the basis of not one but 4 FISA applications, and it all turned out not to be true. So in that case, well, nobody was charged. Nobody was charged with top secret classified information. Her home wasn't raided on her server. Deleted subpoenaed emails, 30,000 of them. We didn't hear a bleach bit. Then you have all the people that signed off on those warrants. Nothing happens to them. Joe Biden, 4 locations, top secret documents. Nobody raided his house. That, I guess,
It's because there's political corruption, and that's a good point that he's making here. Sean Hannity is making a good point. Yeah, so if you really want to say no one's above the law, well, these people were above the law, obviously.
we've added a new word to our lexicon, and that is lawfare, or weaponization of justice.
That's right.
My question to you is, and people are saying, actually because of an interview we did together, you said, I would be dictator for the day and just to secure the border and drill for oil. I thought it was tongue-in-cheek. I was sitting there with you. However,
Now, this is a really good question. Again, it goes back to show what the left has been saying all the time, right? Trump is going to come back and he's going to, he's going to come back for vengeance and so on. Like, but it's one of those things. It's like, how do you answer that question? And Trump is going to do an exceptional job answering this. You don't want to say, I will never come back for vengeance. But at the same time, you don't want to say, I'm coming back for vengeance. Because either one you say, you're in trouble. And Trump understands that. He's going to say it in such a way. I really appreciate what he did. Again, this man is very smart. He's not dumb. Like, he's grown so much in the political arena. The mistake that he used to make in 2016 and so on, he's not making today. So he's polished now. He's much better. But again, watch how he handles this. I really appreciate what he did.
my question is a very serious one. You know, people are claiming you want retribution. People are claiming you want what has happened to you done to Democrats. Would you do that ever?
Look, what's happened to me has never happened in this country before. And it has to stop because...
Wait a minute. I want to hear that again. It has to stop.
Well, it does have to stop because we're not going to have a country
And if you're
anymore.
elected, what does that mean? Define that.
Look, what I've gone through, nobody's ever gone through.
He already answered the question. It has to stop. Now, what he's really saying is, I'm going to stop this. I'm not going to keep doing this. I'm not going to retaliate like they've done. But one extreme side of this is, what about some of the people who did wrong? Should the people who did what they did, will they have a change of heart? Will they just go away? Or should there be some level of accountability? Should there be some type of, retaliation just to set an example? I'm not saying I'm for that, but I'm just saying is, unfortunately, mercy to certain evildoers can also be used as fuels to do more evil. It's not always a good idea to let the criminals go free. For example, what's happening in Las Vegas, in California, in different places of the world, and with all increasing crimes and everything, and also in New York, these Democratic-run states, soft on crime policies is having a very negative effect. So at the same time, while you gotta be merciful, but you at the same time have to be just, because if you don't enforce the law, you don't address the evildoers, you run the risk of perpetuating the same behaviors. It's a very dangerous thing. Trump's understand that, and I think he's gonna be doing something. I don't know what that something is, but I don't think he's going to go back and retaliate and do them like they did him. I don't think that's what's gonna happen.
Very legitimate person. I built a great business. Everything's been, I have been under siege. Nobody's ever seen anything like this in this country. Now, in other countries, in other third world countries, or banana republics, as they say, a banana republic, we've become a banana republic. At the border, we've become a banana republic. With so many other elements of our country, we've become a banana republic. You take a look at what's happening with inflation. That's a banana republic inflation, what we have. I think it could be as high as 50% if you add everything in. When you start adding energy prices in, when you start adding interest rates, which have gone from 2% to 9 and 10%.
But focus on those that want people to believe that you want retribution, that you will use the system of justice to go.
Well, he already answered, but I know. He's trying to get a clear response from Trump, but Trump already answered. Trump says it has to stop.
After your political enemies.
So, number one, they're wrong. It has to stop, because otherwise we're not going to have a country. Look, when this election is over, based on what they've done, I would have every right to go after them.
Yep.
And it's easy, because it's Joe Biden, and you see all the criminality, all of the money that's going into the family and him, all of this money from China, from Russia, from Ukraine. During one of the interviews, I said, what about the $3.5 million paid to the Biden family from the mayor of Moscow's wife? What about that? And Chris Wallace defended him, said, you can't ask that question. Well, then it turned out to be a big deal long after that debate. That was one of the debates. And it turned out to be a big deal. And Chris Wallace said, we can't go there because we don't know that it should turn out to be true. Millions and millions of dollars. Now,
By the way, he had dinner with her at the Cafe Milano. And he said to America he never once talked to his son, brother, or anybody about their foreign business deal.
Well, he said it, and then you found out it was absolutely untrue. Everything he says is untrue. There's never been a president like this. Look, he is a horrible president. He's destroying our country at the border. He's allowing millions of people to come in from prisons and jails, from mental institutions and insane asylums, which is a step above, a big step above a mental institution. He's allowing terrorists to flood into our country. And the numbers are probably 16, 17, or 18 million people. You're going to have over 20 million people, I think, I believe, and a lot of other people do too, by the time he hopefully gets out. November 5th, Election Day, will be the most, and by the way, it starts on September 22nd. It starts earlier because of early voting. But November 5th will go down as the most important election in the history of our country. It's going to be the most important day and period in the history of our country.
Will you?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And I'll tell you what, I haven't shared this with anyone, right? I have never voted. I have never voted. I literally have not. And the first time I'm going to vote for Donald Trump. Just letting you know. Side note, let's keep going.
You pledge to restore equal justice, equal application of our laws, end this practice of weaponization. Is that a promise you're going to make?
You have to do it. But it's awful. Look, I know you want
He keeps asking the question, but he answered several times. I have to do it. It has to stop. He told you that. But he's not telling you whether he is not going to, because you can't say it. If you say it, the left will use it. If you say I'm going to retaliate, if you say I'm not going to retaliate, it's going to be used as fuels. It's one of those set up. Trump's understand that. Trump's gets it.
Is that a promise you're going to make?
You have to do it. But it's awful. Look, I know you want me to say something.
No,
so
I don't want
nice,
you to say. I'm
but
asking.
I don't want to look naive.
I don't want
what they've done to the Republican.
You see what he said? I don't want to look naive. I don't want to look naive.
Party, they want to arrest on no crime. They want to arrest the person that won the nomination in a landslide. There was nobody even close in a landslide. The person that got millions of votes, more votes than any other sitting president in history in the last election. The person that won an election that he wasn't expected to win against Hillary Clinton in 2016. They want to arrest that person on no crime. They want to arrest. There was no crime. There was no criminality. There was no crime. And you can go back to all of these legal scholars. They can't believe what's happening. Some of them don't even like me, and they're saying this is a very, very dangerous thing that's happening.
Yes, it is.
No, we can't let this happen. And I will do everything in my power not to let. But there's tremendous criminality here. What they're doing to me, if it's going to continue, we're really not going to have much of a country left. It is weaponization. You call it lawfare, you call it, some people call it just warfare. But it is weaponization of the election. And we're talking about, I think, the most important election in the history of our country. This will go down, I believe, as the most important election in the history of our country. We can't have this stuff go on. Because you know what? When Biden goes out, everyone says bye-bye, and then he gets indicted 2 days later, and they go after him. The country doesn't want that. And you know what? They didn't want it with Hillary Clinton either. I thought it was terrible. You know, I'd make a speech, everyone would say, lock her up, lock her up, lock. And I was at a UFC fight the other night with Dana White, who's a fantastic.
You got a terrible reception.
Yeah,
I did well. I'm kidding.
You better tell them.
I'm kidding. I'm not telling Dana that.
People don't understand sometimes sarcasm.
No, we played it. It was pretty overwhelming.
It was 25,000 people, whatever they had going. Absolutely. There
Right
wasn't
after
a
your conviction.
negative. But you know what? What I watched, and it was some of the fighters, two in particular, hated their opponent. And this went on for months. The fight, was broadcast out, and they announced the fight.
It's pretty amazing what he's about to do now. He's going to connect what happened at UFC to show what he might possibly do, right? Instead of going after my political opponent in the way that they went after me, it's possible we might end up hugging each other. That right there is like, if he does that's outstanding. That sets him apart from all others. When Trump has every reason to go back after them and take them down, and if he chooses to show love and extend kindness and respect, that will set him apart. Set him apart. Doesn't mean I'm okay with some of these people, because some of them, you show, like the Bible says, you show mercy to the wicked, but they will not learn righteousness, right? Some of them will still do you wrong, but I really hope and pray that's not the case in the end.
And the hatred was real. It was the real deal. These people have a lot of hatred, and they hate it. And then the fight ended, and they're hugging and kissing in the ring. They're down, sitting they're hugging and kissing. It's like nothing happened. Happened on two fights. There was tremendous animosity between the two fighters and the other two fighters. And at the end, that's what happened. And in a certain way, after we won against Hillary, people would say, lock her up, lock her up. And I said, wouldn't it be terrible if I locked up the wife of the President of the United States, former, and locked up the former Secretary of State? It's a terrible thing. You start.
That doesn't sound like some hardcore, like they like to say, communist and fascist Donald Trump, white supremacist. That's not how a white supremacist or fascist speaks, okay? I'm just letting you know. This man is moderate. Like, apart from his alpha male behavior, just saying it like it is, right? But when you actually listen to him, he's like, he ain't trying to hurt nobody. Like, this guy is not, he doesn't drink alcohol, doesn't smoke. He's not even what most people think he is. Like, it's like some of the fear that people have about Trump is completely nonsense. Like, if you sit down and talk with Trump, you will realize he's a nice guy. You see, did you hear what he just said? It's like, why would I lock up Hillary? Like, that's a terrible thing, Like, that's not how a man who wants to retaliate and hold people accountable, that's not how you will do it.
Former Secretary of State. It's a terrible thing. You're starting if you want to bring the country together. I want to bring the country together. And success does bring the country together because we're the most successful economy in the history of our country just prior to COVID. And even at the end, I got it back. It was an amazing thing. But we had the most successful economy in history. And I was getting calls from radical left people wanting to meet. And I'm telling you, success, African American, Asian American, Hispanic American, women, men, people with diplomas, people without diplomas, people that went to MIT, Harvard, and Wharton, people that didn't get out of high school. the most successful economy we've ever had. And people on that I would say, you call them on the radical left, call it whatever you want, liberal people, progressive people, they were all calling, and they were saying, let's get together, this is amazing. Every single group, nobody has ever done better than during that period of time in my administration, during that period.
That's right.
And they wanted to get together, and it would have happened. We would have happened. It was really something. I'm not sure I would have been able to say to you that there was a way to unify. Success will unify, and I think we're going to have a tremendous success.
Absolutely.
We have to bring it back fast because this country we're a failing nation. We are really a failing nation right now. We're being laughed at all over the world.
That was an amazing interview. I really love what he did. This doesn't look like somebody who's trying to kill somebody. He's not trying to retaliate. There's no vengeance here. Like the man is moderate, bruh. Like this is the most moderate president we ever had. Lord have mercy. Despite what's going on here, Trump is telling you something. He's teaching us a lesson. I'm losing money. You guys are wearing me out. Tired, traveling back and forth, sitting in courtrooms. Like with all the stuff that they're doing to Trump, he has every reason once he wins to come back and spank somebody. But friends, when you listen to him, does it sound like this is what he's about to do? Does it sound like in any way Trump wants to get back at them? But he can. As a matter of fact, he has every right to. Somebody might even say he should, to set an example. But that's not what I hear, though. What I'm hearing is that I'm going to give you grace and mercy. I'm going to extend an arm of love. That is serious. That right there, he will be remembered for that alone. And I truly believe he's not going to do anything. I don't think so. Trump is more moderate than people think. Biden, like, he's not moderate. Yeah, moderate in his behavior, but in his dealings with people, that's a different case. Look at this. Let me show you something the Bible says. Therefore, if your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he thirsts, give him drink. For in so doing, you shall heap coals of fire on his head. Be not overcome of evil, but overcome evil with good. You see, this is a principle that I know the world doesn't like this one very much. Christians, yada, yada, yada. But I'll tell you something. This principle I just read to you right now, Trump is talking about, that right here, that's what changes people. As a matter of fact, I am what I am today because that's how Jesus treated me. Even though I've done wrong against them, he's established me, forgiven me, cleaned me up, and given me a new life and a new perspective. He wants to do the same for you. And I'll tell you what, I will never advocate for retaliation, but I do believe there should be justice done. You should be addressing the evildoers. But while you're doing so, the people who's done you wrong, don't do them in the same way that they've done to you. Because that's how you change perspective, you change hearts. Trump will go down in American history as one of the greatest presidents ever lived if he doesn't come back and retaliate in the same way that they did to him. We're going to remember Trump for that. I'm telling you, not just the success and the great presidency. Listen, I don't think we've ever had a president like Donald Trump. I'm not bragging about this. I've looked at the numbers. I've done my research. This man has done more for America than any other president I could actually think of in all the history of America. And yet, he's going through all of this. And guess what he's going to do? He's going to forgive his enemies. Give them a job. Work with them. Give them an opportunity to shoot. Like, listen, I'm not like you. I'm not going to do you like you did to me. I'm going to treat you with love and respect, even though you're trying to destroy my life. That is different. Anyway, much more could be said about that. Share your thought and perspective with me. I want to hear from you. Do you agree or disagree? Like and subscribe to the page. Click the bell icon for more. Follow us on Patreon. Stand with us there as well. Have a good one. Bye.